Good afternoon. Not the easiest video to make today, but I'm at a loss and they tend to help, so I need help right now. I'll run you through the course of events. 6 o'clock in the morning, my mental health decided to antagonise me in terms of aggravating physical pain, emotional pain, mental confusion, and beyond any of the actual individual parts, the bit that gets me the most is I'm a bit traumatised from last year. So yeah, I'm getting straight to the point for myself. I'm traumatised from events from the last year. I felt antagonised by society, every one of you, as a result, to a very, I was going to say sick level, but what I had to experience was a level of sickness, but it was just relentless, a relentless antagonism. And I'm traumatised by it. Really hit home in hospital. It just got too much for me. And I've been trying to put reason to it ever since, because if I can't, I'm done for. There's no life. It's just too much to accept. I'll go mad. I mean actually mad, not this practicality to madness that you've seen. And I hate my voice today. It's very, very, almost loves itself too much. I want to punch myself in the face by the way I sound. I can't deal with myself, I detest myself. And the reason I say that is because I believe external consciousnesses run and rule my mental health. And I use it as an opportunity to attack the external consciousness that wants to play with Andreas today, because his life is perfect, but yet I can tell by the sound of my own voice there's a massive arrogance to it. So I take the opportunity to belittle it in its supremeness over me. But ultimately it's my voice at the end of the day, and it's coming out of my mouth, and it sounds like I love myself too much, and I want to punch myself in the face. So however you want to compartmentalise it, however you want to look at that complexities of my head, you're welcome to. I can't make it a whole picture. I have to deal with compartmentalisations. That's why I'm probably schizophrenic. But how can you really deal with the world if you're not schizophrenic? What lies do you tell yourself? So, before I got off track, I was saying that a culmination of events took place, centred around the hospital the past year. Just really hit home then that the level of sickness that is coming from society towards me, and I'm just trying to be a good person. I'm just trying to live my life to the way I know how. I don't know if it's a lie I told myself, but I've told myself the reason things have taken place as they have is because it's to give me a perspective of an unfair life. All the way through my mental health, I've fought. I've tried to find fairness all the way through. And for that reason, despite all the bollocks I've been through, all the unfairness, I didn't really ever feel hard done by. I always applied reason and logic to it. And I guess I gave myself I took credit for as much as I could take credit for. But it's just been too much, and sorry, I'm gonna have to use a massage gun. My mental health is antagonising my legs while I'm trying to live. From my hips down, it's just been ridiculous. So from my hips up hasn't been too much better saying that. So I gave reason to it that it was to give me a perspective of an unfair life. Beyond anything that I can imagine living in normal society in the UK, I appreciate people out there who've lived lives where they've suffered abuse, and I'm sure it does get pretty sick. It gave me an ability to, you can never say you connect with it because you haven't lived it, but to see a perspective, to get an angle, a viewpoint on what it must be like to have lived a racist life, one where you suffered racism, one where you suffered your own sexuality, and you're not allowed to live your life because of your own sexuality. All the people that have suffered with their sexuality in terms of LGBT, and I think there's more as well, but they've compartmentalised it as LGBT, and the ignorance we still have as a society towards them. How else do I'm simplistic in my language, and it's like I hear myself back, and it's like I know it's wrong. Them. You. I'm not speaking, I've got no followers, so I'm not speaking to you, but you know what I'm trying to say, and I'll just leave it there. And that's this society. But because we still have trappings, we still have the luxury of shops, we still have the luxury to earn money and keep quiet about our problems, we can still live a life, one that might limit its impact on our physical body at least, or give us emotional comfort a different way. It's a pretty sick life. It would have to be sick, especially with the rest of the world constantly there on our doorstep, and all we have to do is look at that and look at our own life, look at that, look at our own life, look at that, look at our own life, and we realise, well, what the fuck are we doing? all our money in taxes goes to, well, I say all of our money, a large proportion of our taxes goes to war. So next time we see a bombing, someone dropped somewhere in the world by Saudi Arabia or whoever else that we sell a lot of our arms to, we can feel privileged that we've paid for that. We've just killed somebody, literally. How many times have I killed somebody in my life because I've paid my taxes? And then you realise that it's all political control, and it's what governments have money, what governments don't. And then you look at, I'm just going to keep it simplistic, and then you look at Africa. They've had all the world's resources on their flipping land for the rest of the world to come and rape and pillage, take it all, ship it to China. They're the manufacturing warehouse of the world, and we get to go and have a service economy where we go to the shops. How are we not responsible for starvation? How are we not responsible for the continuation of suffering, the spreading of AIDS, because we pay our taxes? But because we are physical, because we have the because we have our own problems, we have the ability to balance them out, and unfortunately we delve into sickness to do that. Now I can see a few elements of what's happening with my mental health. It's wanting me to complain about the rest of the world, and I think I'm going to have to. I think that's where I've got to have my beef with. Because that's what it's shown me. It's shown me interest. Look, this is you. You've got your problems. You can go to the shops and you can balance out your problems for the rest of your life, mate. But when you die, you'll look at the rest of the world and say, I wish I'd done more. Because it's on my doorstep now. Maybe back in the 70s when it was all landline telephones. If you missed the call, that's it. You're lucky if you've got a voice machine. And I mean, back in the 70s, I think it was really like that. You're lucky if you've got a voice machine. You miss the phone call, that's it. You watch a few channels on TV, and you see a few bits of news about the rest of the world. Now we can't say that. We've got the luxuries of the World Wide Web travelling at more megabytes than we can ever imagine we need. Unless, and I can feel my emotions wanting to go off and just really complain. But fuck it, this is what my mental health half wants, and if it gets me back on my feet today, I'm going to have to take it. Unless we're gamers. Unless we spend 50, 60, however many pounds buying games of warfare to train our mentality to the fucking game of warfare. Feeding the warfare. Sympathising with warfare. That's what most of the games are. You get the occasional sport one, and it's a multi-trillion-dollar business. It's bigger than the flipping movie industry. And that's where the demand for internet comes from. Can you believe me that we could get by on a 2004, 2005 internet speed right now, as long as we don't want 4K flipping live streams, and we're okay with maybe 720p, which is as good as you're ever going to need unless you're a flipping audiophile or you've got too much money. It's just because of the games, because of the sickness that we're feeding our children with the games that are coming out. And they're getting ever more real, ever more complex, ever more strategic. And I'm talking about the kids, the adults too. From my generation, I'm a weird one. I was never into games. But if you're of my generation, of my age, you're likely to be into games. And I know people of my age have a game console at home. for themselves. Maybe it's a bit more in tune in line, but they've got a game console for themselves to play games of warfare. And I'm not complaining about other people, I'm just putting things in perspective from my own head right now. So from hospital it gave me the perspective that, look, Andreas, you've got your problems. You say you care. The only way I could put that into context and really take in the sickness of the last year, because behind it all I've seen it as love. Behind all the sickness it's been like, we're doing this to you, Andreas, because we love you. But ultimately on the surface it's been just torment. But I keeping the baseline of love as the reasoning behind all your, and I'm going to say you, because you're not going to get away with it, man. My anger is towards you all. And I know I get like 3-4 views, and unfortunately it's to those 3-4 people that I'm complaining to. But in complaining to you, I'm putting a lot of weight on your shoulders, because you're there as a flipping responsible for the rest of the society in the UK. So each one of you carries about 10 million people on your shoulders. You can't complain about the kids. They haven't done anything yet. But keeping the fact that I see and I've seen whatever's happened to me happen out of love, it's always made me question what is going on, why is it happening? And the best that I could do is to say, look, you're sitting here, you're doing nothing with your life, complaining about you all doing nothing. Let's take that complaining to work. Let's put it to good use. I don't know the reasons yet, but it just gave me a perspective to see the rest of the world, to see that life is unfair. Life is unfair for those who don't have, those who suffer, those who, God knows what people go through. I mean, the families that are wrecked by war, by disease. And it's just, it occurred to me, you know, in some places of the world it's normal to have just a ripped up family. Oh, my dad's died. I'm like John Smith. Oh, my sister's just died. I'm like whatever other common name there is in society. I don't. Do you see what I'm trying to say? It's a case of I appreciate in the world there are places where disease and war makes death and having less in terms of family members a normality. And then I want to complain about my life being fair when it's happening on that fundamental level, and to the person experiencing it, really to gain sanity all they have to do is look around at the rest of the people that they're surrounded by and see John Smith without his mum and dad, without his sister, alone. And I'm here complaining about my first world problems. It's like, what right do I have? But I know my reasoning for it, because it's the sickness is on this level, and as long as I'm keeping them both in reference, the sickness to what we're experiencing, the problems of the world, hopefully there's truth within there. And I know I'm ill. I know I'm sick. We're all born sick. I'm just trying to be as real and honest as possible. So it gave me a perspective that the rest of the world, this voice, I want to punch myself so fucking much, it's unbelievable. I'm going to diverge just a minute, and that is to say that this consciousness can't flip in, do its own work. It can't care for the world. It needs me. It needs this physical body. It needs the battered life that is Andreas Dimitriou to do its work, its heart, its love through me. All the while being so fucking arrogant in voice. Coming back on track, so the only way the past year's antagonism, I can take any meaning from it, is by looking at the rest of the world and seeing that that's what the message was trying to get to me. It's a case of really there's no point complaining on this level. If that's what some humans are going through, and I could fall all the way to that level, I better stop now. But it's just so hard to separate out, man. It's like, what it is like I experience my mental health, and I appreciate if I managed to get to the crux of what the fuck is going on with my mental health, what the hell is going on with my mental health. I might stand a better chance of sorting out the world's problems. If I get to the crux of mental health as a disease, surely that's going to help, you know, when you start to begin to see that spirituality doesn't separate itself from a mental health illness, and every mental health illness out there is spiritual. So then you begin to realize spirituality exists as a matter of fact, and then you begin to, if I break mental health, if I cure mental health as a pre-mandatory, then you begin to realise that what is widespread within society is this act to mental health, to what's going on in the world. I don't know if everybody gets a chance to flash forward to the future. And there was a programme on TV about a few years back where everyone got a chance to flash forward to the future, and you're all being quiet to what you saw. You're aware on another level. That's all I know. And you see me better than I know myself, but you're all living lives that I can't connect to. And then at the same time, looking at you all, looking at your lives, looking at me and my own, for each and every one of us, you want to claim love, and I can see it in your eyes. You're like, I'm love. What I'm doing is out of pure love. And I struggle to connect to that. I haven't got enough of a concrete answer yet why that's happening. I have my suspicions, and I have to live by them, but bloody hell, is it ever something to complain about? So I'm thinking, yes, I know the problems of the world. I was thinking, who am I going to sue? Am I going to sue the NHS? Am I going to sue the banks out there because they're a joke? What they're allowed to get away with in terms of finances is an absolute joke. Do I sue the banks? Do I bring down the bloody monetary system? Because it's there for the taking. All it takes is one person to be a little bit aware, be so pissed off with their own fucking life, have enough of a beating from their own life not to give a shit about all the abuse they're going to get from the banks that are meant to be on the level. Not be afraid of going to court. Know a certain extent of how to get around a few little things in court that are a bit of a piss take on that level, and you bring down the flipping monetary system. God knows what world would look like thereafter. Or do I go to court and sue flipping law? Because it's a joke that we're born into this flipping world, that we have to have somebody trained in this fine art of law and language that's not just language, it's just like a pseudo language, one specially designed for court, where every little word you say has a different meaning. Understand doesn't mean understand anymore. It means like, I succumb to everything that you say, yeah, I'm your slave, or something to that extent. Do I sue law? Do I sue capitalism? So these are all the questions. What do I do? But I ask myself the question, and I hate how I'm being so emotional given what I've been put through this morning. Like I'm on my high horse, like I'm doing a good thing for anybody. I'm just trying to sort my own head out, man. But I'm talking about through exactly what's going on in my head so I can find an answer to my problem for today. And it might help me going forward. So I've got all these things. Who do I sue? Who do I bring down? You get Andreas worked up enough, he'll do anything, man. He can fight the world, and his life is that shit at the moment. But knowing myself, I know that it's not really the place where it's at. It's not practical. I'd spend the next 20, 30 years possibly taking people to court, wasting my own life, with the possible likely answer of computer says no. No matter how much truth comes out of my flipping mouth, it's all manipulatable. How many years, how many decades can I take of abuse from banks, from Big Pharma, if I take Big Pharma to court? All the shit that's going to get brought up on me all of a sudden if I decide to take capitalism to court, if I take war to court. I was thinking about taking the United Kingdom to court and having it sectioned for having actions that are mentally ill. That is my perspective on the UK. You want to claim this, but what are you doing over here, mate? How can you claim freedom, free speech, and only in the year 2000 make it legal, year 2000 make it legal for LGBT to be legalised within the armed forces? Year 2000. So it's not in that far in the recent past that we're still very archaic. And it's occurred to me, what's it's so hard to speak about the political correctness, and not only the political correctness, but the sensitivity that really does need to be applied. So please forgive me in my bluntness and hatred for language. I know that I do care about every other soul on this planet, regardless of their skin colour or sexuality, and that is what people have been through in terms of racism, what people have been through in terms of their sexuality. It's got to be coming time for people with a mental health disorder to have their what would you call it, their day, their freedom, because we're still dealing with racism, we're still dealing with homophobia. But ultimately, I don't want to be flipping medicated for believing that spirituality exists. I don't want to be medicated for being a human being, having the power of language, encouraged to express, which I don't really wish to. And then when I do, we're going to shout, because what I'm experiencing is pain, and it's a primordial voice rather than a one that's conditioned and fancies itself in its own mind to the language and the fanciful ways it can be used. And language isn't that bad, man, but when you look at how it's been used to belittle, I've had it my whole, well, I'm not going to complain about that, but when you look at the way language is used to enhance an ego, when you look at the way language is used to control the masses, you realise it's just like money. Money isn't a problem, but it's the way it's been used, it's the way it can be used, and it's exactly the same with language. And you have to be on the ball if you've got money, because you've got a responsibility. You know, if I claim love, well then I've got a real big responsibility to manage £5 or 5 bits of gold. Do I put myself above another individual? Do I get away from that place of love that I claim and is an element of sanity as a human being? But yeah, I want to take the UK to court for being mentally ill. I want to section it. I want to show it that it's schizophrenic. How dare it come and demand that the only answer to my situation is that I either shut up, which I can't do. I know it's a failed attempt. I'm going to have to try. But the emotions, if I don't deal with the emotions, if society doesn't change that it can allow me to deal with my emotions to the world, which have just been amplified by me connecting to a suffering that's greater than my own, it's an impossibility in reality. Where am I going to have the freedom to go and shout all day long? The UK is so packed, even if I went and lived in the middle of a forest, I'd still disturb people a few miles away. That's how loud my voice is. And all I'm being is human. Nothing wrong with it. I mean, no harm to anybody. You stick me in the most remote location and say, Andreas, we understand your problem. This is the best compromise. I'll thrive. I won't have that pressure on me anymore. Yeah, I've got my mental health problems and I've got to deal with them still. They may be a challenge. But in terms of survival, I'll thrive. I don't fear having to hunt. I don't fear having to grow food. I don't fear having to make shelter. I don't fear having to keep warm. But it's all illegal. Land is all owned. I can't imagine anybody, at least when it's live, is listening 34 minutes of me having a complaint about everything. But it's relevant today. It's not practical though, to spend 20, 30 years of my life on a punt to take an element of this sickness to court. It's not worthwhile. In my honest opinion, I'm better off focusing all of my attention on my mental health, where I've been for the last 10 years, and I've given it so much energy and breaking it. Because I know I've got to a certain point where I'm coming after all of you now. My mental health has stopped being so internalised, and I'm complaining about you in terms of my own mental health. And I feel like I'm just there. Spirituality's been knocking on my door, and I just can't give it attention because I'm just, it doesn't really matter on the level it's knocking on my door at. But all I need is a couple of things to line up and I get a new perspective. But what it is, I need something that I can keep in mind that is a bit more real to the situation, because I told you we're living a sick life. If you want to be a real human being and claim love on any level, you need to take into account the love of the person that's suffering most on the planet. And say there's 5 different ways to suffer the most. You've got to take into account the sum total of the 5 different sufferings on the planet. Then you've got to look at your life around you. You've got to see the luxuries that we have here. And you've got to be real within that. Otherwise you're sick. Otherwise I'm sick. And I'm sick. There's no way I can't deal with my own pain, man. How am I gonna up it anymore? Times 5. There's 5 different aspects as a human. That's all I'm saying. Mental, emotional, physical, love, energetic. I don't know, I've not seen how suffering can be applied to energy yet, but that's what I've come to understand as 5 different aspects of being human. So what I need is something to keep me focused in every day. So what's happening is I'm getting lost to my struggle within my mental health to do something more abstractly for the world, than something a little bit more direct in terms of just going to court. So what do? Do I waste my life, waste really helping, but keep sane within it? But how sane am I if my pursuit is just for myself? How sane is it? My pursuit to sue the UK is to keep myself sane. How much am I really caring about that person that's suffering? How much am I really caring about anybody else other than myself? How sick would that be? But then you've got the flip side, that if I just carry on, I'm going to be sick. And I'm going to be swimming in the sickness. And I can't do that anymore. Life is asking me to do something a bit more practical. And until the point where I figure out what the hell I'm going to do, I'm going to be having mornings like this where I'm waking up and my day falls apart before it's even started. And I need to get over it. I need to get over it real quick, because my life is crumbling around me in terms of this society. What we view as a good life. So if you've got any ideas, do send them to me by email, but nobody emails me when I complain so much, so just send it as a conscious thought. Maybe it will come through. But as long as I'm swimming around in my mental health is the most important thing. When I have a mental health episode like I did this morning, I need to deal with it. I need to analyze it. I need to focus on it. I need to work out every little bit of it. Because that's the work. That's where I gain sanity. But it's a bit too much for me now. It was a bit too much for me last year before I went to hospital. So it really does look like I'm going to be taking people to court. And I'll have to be humble. I'll have to say, yes, it's because I'm sick. Because I need to have a life. I'm going to waste the next 20, 30 years on taking XYZ to court with the likelihood that I'm going to lose because it will make me sane. I can't live this life anymore. This is where I'm stuck. This is where my day's over. But I don't think I'm going to get anything more from this video, so I'm going to cut it short here. The kick in the nuts is the sun today. It's such a nice day. It raises spirits, but where I am, I need to be a little bit more depressed to connect to myself. Enjoy the sun.